He told me about the weekend.
He's a hoot.
He really is.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. He told me how you was doing. I don't wanna like something about squats.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay. Oh,
I was like, alright.
He's a weirdo. I got some pretty nasty Snapchats from him. Like on Saturday night.
Yeah, really.
I was like,
Wait, he said what?
like, he sent me Snapchats.
Yeah.
And half of them weren't wearing shirts. I mean, they're all guys, but I was just like,
okay. I was like,
why are you all half clothed?
It's Halloween.
I guess so.
I don't know.
He kept talking about your costume. He was like, it was just so beautiful. I was just like,
That's why
because you posted it on Facebook and it wasn't too pretty.
He posted a picture.
No, you did, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah. I was like, what?
No, he didn't. He's not that creepy. He's weird, but he's not that weird.
What's something bad? There was something about natural. Yeah, I have less receptive, more responsive. Okay, less receptive to drugs. No, less receptive to natural and more responsive. Okay.
And then I
It's nice because if I can keep up right now.
Yeah, first. It doesn't change automatically.
Oh,
that's the case. And I was like, I know, I was like,
It's a protein.
went to a yin class, which more for science. I mean, it's all about we spend more time. At least the instructor I have. The instructor that I have for yin yoga influenced mindfulness into the class, and I had a really great experience. Yin yoga, it's a type of yoga that's very different from other types. There's like yin, it's not yin and yang, but I'll take it up for you. What is yin yoga?
So it's better over.
What? Yeah, I go to yoga class. It's charging.
My wife was doing more yoga with she started over.
it's great, and you guys agree together, like,
I think they said.
I think it's worth it for me. It's a pretty far drive for me, but I have friends who live in the area, so I usually, and I go to like a study or in the coffee shops around there, so I make a day of it.
Yeah,
Because I have to drive out here.
Yeah,
Oh.
it just refines the.
Nice.
7.
11.
8.
I was chanting as a girl.
6.
2.
Right.
13.
Okay, so today, probably video that uses this type of mindfulness, so applicable in college, it's happening to you every day, whenever you go to school and at home. Okay, it's better to start with the one who just is.
We all know that there's stress in college. I think that's kind of an obvious thing, and it can come from a lot of different places. So I talked about that a little bit in the reading. But if we don't manage our stress and it stays around for a long time, it can lead to health issues like heart conditions and depression, depending on the type of stress. And so it also makes us a lot more tired and irritable and hard to focus on the important things that we're doing. So obviously meditation can help. And I talked about exams, like anxiety with exams specifically. So I used the PowerPoint from our MIT. And they gave a lot of other suggestions too, like not to drink a lot of caffeine beforehand because it makes the physical feelings of stress like more intense, and obviously get plenty of sleep, and don't study at the last minute. And then take a few minutes before your exam to refocus with your meditation, and just try not to worry about what will happen in the exam of what happened before the exam. Also talked about dealing with emotional stresses. So, I mean, at this point, I still miss my family a lot, but I'm a junior. You know, for freshmen, it's a big change in switching from being at home, pretty much being taken care of, to going like out on their own, and that can cause them a lot of emotional stress. So, just typical meditation, using it every day, and trying to be more mindful about what you do and how you do it to relieve the stress of everything.
So, in general, what are the most disturbing stresses that you have in college? Is examining, to take an exam?
Yeah, that and I think managing my time between schoolwork and time for myself, or more so sleep.
How about others? What kind of stresses that you think is so serious in school? Taking an exam is the most serious one? How about others?
I mean, for me, it's probably planning for what's next. There's always like the next step, the next thing to do. I mean, exams, yeah, for sure, but right now it's graduate school that's a problem.
How about others?
I don't really take exams that much anymore, just because of the kind of classes that I'm in. I have one class right now I'm taking exams in, but exams don't really stress me out anymore because I've taken so many and I've just like gotten it down, like what I need to do and I just do it. But what is stressing me out right now is knowing that I've been really busy this semester, and so there's my honors project that I put off, and I know that I'm going to have to start writing that paper and getting everything together soon, and I know that I haven't dedicated as much time as I need to, so I know that when that comes, I haven't been feeling the stress about that yet, but I know that when it comes, I am going to be stressed because I'm going to have to do a lot in a short period of time.
For a graduate student, you don't need to take tests, but most of the time you do project, essay, paper, right?
It depends on your program. Like MBAs, they do a lot of tests, but my particular program, no. I do mostly writing papers. I did just take an economics class. It was a 1.5 credits in 3 weeks. That was pretty stressful. There was a test every week, and we covered 8 chapters a week, so it was like really fast. So it wasn't so great, but yeah. So.
How about others? You still taking a lot of tests? Right? It's stressful.
Especially when you have some of them like back to back on the same day. That's the most annoying feeling because you're like, well, I don't know. You gotta study for both, so you gotta figure it out. And one is particularly harder than the other. So
Sometimes you spend more time to one and less time for others, right?
yeah, and it shows.
Alright, so this is the this one, is that right? You pick this one? Is that right?
Oh no, I didn't find that one.
Oh, you don't?
No, it was.
You can't see the writing. On the left.
I can kind of. It's just.
So you don't?
I used a PowerPoint that had a blue background. It was for the test anxiety one, and then I used the paper.
That's
for
okay.
I can't see the business.
Okay, that's fine. The two, please. Yeah, please. Yeah, what is the student asking?
There wasn't one article in particular that I used. I skimmed the ones over anxiety and stress for my response. And I thought that out of all the treatments that we've studied, if a counselor did employ one, that NDSR would be most applicable here. And like she was talking about, because a lot of college students complain about stress and they don't know what to do about it. I think one of the first things a counselor should help you do is identify the source of your stress. And that doesn't mean just like, oh, I'm stressed because I have tests and I have homework. But why are you stressing because you have it? Do you feel like you don't have enough time? Do you feel like you don't know how to help yourself learn the material? You know, talk to them until you find the root of the stress, the problem. And that's how you can help them to manage the stress from that. I think if they employ any mindfulness techniques, that meditation would be really helpful. But if they don't really want to do that, then you can just suggest like doing other activities that help you relieve your stress, like exercising or playing a sport, or if you like crafts or reading, any of that kind of stuff can help. Because a lot of times, especially I've noticed my friends that live on campus, sometimes you get so caught up in school that you don't realize there's life outside of school. So they need to talk about that with the student as well, that sometimes you have to take a step away from school. Non-judgment and acceptance, that's important. Sometimes if you fail, you mess up a quiz or a test. You know, some people, I don't really do it as much anymore, but I've noticed some people, if they mess up, they'll dwell on it for a really long time. So acceptance is really important. And then I thought values, teaching values, that comes from mindfulness. I thought that would be important because a lot of people are afraid of new ideas and things that they see in college because they are clinging to their old views. So if you already know your values coming in, then you know that other people's ideas aren't going to like change you or corrupt you. It'll just help you. That's all I put.
I don't know. There's some college, university, that the nets around the building.
Net around the building? Oh, God.
So I, you know why? Because sometimes you jump out, right? I think at the beginning I mentioned about one, UK student, University of Pennsylvania. She's bright. She's only 19-year-old, and she jumped out. It's so stressful for her. Especially the honor student, especially if you are accepted into the IB school. This is a lot of pressure, right? And how about you? If you are an honor student, you have a lot of pressure. You have to maintain pace. Is that right?
A little below, but I think maybe a B or a B plus. It's like a 3.3.
Not C, right?
No.
C is like fail, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know for honor students. For graduates, you can't get a C. I mean, you can, but the class doesn't count. So, you wasted your money and your time if you get a C. So.
No pressure.
No pressure there.
So much pressure. And one thing I noticed is, of course, all personal benefit of meditation. Like if you were a student counselors, how could you encourage them to sit in meditation? If they say, "Oh, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time to sit in meditation." So how could you advise them?
I would talk to them about priorities, because I would ask them, you know, what do you do? Obviously, you don't do homework nonstop. I mean, are there times when you sit and watch TV? Because I hardly ever watch TV anymore, and I have so much more time when I just leave the TV off all day. Maybe on the weekend for like an hour, but you don't realize how much time you waste doing things that are not beneficial to you at all. So I would just talk to them about their priorities. Like, can you cut out some TV to meditate for even a couple minutes? And then they'll probably come around then, because when you tell them you don't have to meditate for, you know, an hour every day, then I make it easy for them in my time.
So I think
Start small.
watching TV may not much problems, but playing with the internet is more problem, right?
Yeah.
So you're a student council, right? So
No,
you're working for.
Well, yeah,
So,
kind of student.
so sometimes you give them advice to calm their mind.
Yeah, I would probably advise a lot of them to, instead of looking at their phone right before they go to bed, to like meditate for the same amount of time. And you're not really accomplishing anything by scrolling through social media, like, or even a little bit like right after you wake up or right before you go to bed. I think that helps me a lot, especially to sleep.
But sometimes you give them like appreciation.
Yeah, I've brought it up a few times because they're just like, I don't know what to do. I'm so stressed. Well, what are you doing that's not helping you out? Well, I go here and I go there and I watch TV and, like she said, like switch things up a little bit to where it's not so much.
Okay. About others, so you have something to say.
What would I do?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think that typically people only take advice from you when they really know you. And so I would try to, if somebody was coming to me with a problem, I would talk to them for a while and maybe try to build that relationship up over time. And when I see them in the hall, say hi, how are you doing, and check up on them. And then once I had built that relationship, I would talk to them about what I'm doing in my life that helps. And instead of telling them like what they should do, I would talk about what I do and how it works. And then, spending more time with them, maybe being around somebody who can model that kind of behavior will influence them. And then at some point maybe mention, I noticed like you spend a lot of time on your phone. Something like that. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. So this one, this article, this one. Use this one? No.
Did I use this one? No, I didn't find that one.
I couldn't find this one.
No, I didn't even see that one. That would have been really helpful, but
Oh,
I haven't
really?
turned my response in yet, so maybe I'll read that one and
Okay.
that's out of it.
Yeah, we pause it. Okay, the next one, please. The next one.
Oh, I have that one.
BBT?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the PowerPoint that I looked at, let's see, it's called Free DBT for a College Population, and it talked about how DBT helps college students who are dealing with suicide. And first, in the PowerPoint, it talked about the fundamentals of DBT and the outcomes. So it reduces suicidal behaviors, intentional self-injury, depression, hopelessness, anger, eating disorder. So it's all, et cetera, et cetera. It's all like very serious types of behaviors, negative behaviors, and self-inflicting pain and things like that. So there were a lot of different, well, first I'll talk about the cycle of training that students were given who were dealing with depression, suicide, etc. So it started off with, well, I'll just go through it because it's a cycle, so it doesn't, I don't know if it matters where you start. But 2 weeks of mindfulness review, then it's like you take a break and it's winter, and then there's 6 weeks of interpersonal effectiveness, and then you take a break, and then there's 2 weeks of mindfulness review, and then it's spring and you take a break, and then 6 weeks to stress tolerance, and then you take a break, and then 4 weeks of mindfulness, and then it's fall and you take a break, and then it's 6 weeks of emotion regulation, and then it's break, and then you start all over again. That's the cycle. It's 2, 6, 2, 6, 4, 6. So anyway, and to show how this cycle of training and what they did in the mindfulness review, just stress tolerance, emotional regulation, and interpersonal effectiveness. And I can slow down if you want, but to show how DBT helped. They had diary cards They implemented primary care with their therapy. The emphasis was on student and counselor relationships. You might have to review DBT a little to remember like how DBT works. And then there was symptoms checklist, and so all of these things, well, I'll get into that in a second. The suicidal ideation questionnaire was given, reasons for living scale reflected, life problems inventory. So these are all like the tests and the things that they gave. I think I already said that. So overall, these all show that students were much less likely to engage in self-injury during treatment, and there was no severe intentional self-injury. There was less medical appointments for somatic illness. There was overall level of psychological symptoms decreased. There's a decrease in suicidal ideation. There's decrease in level of distress, decrease in suicidal intent, survival and coping beliefs increased, feelings of responsibility towards family increased, much more salient. Acceptance of self increased by 67%. General emotional control increased by 67%. Interpersonal effectiveness increased by 78%. And distress tolerance increased by 67%. Reduced depression by 70%. Decreased suicidal ideation 80%. And academic performance increased by 80%. Yeah, so there's a lot of 24-hour telephone support offered by the therapist, standard DBT handouts that were given, adapting the examples relevant for college, weekly consultation team, confidentiality and limitations, provide students with a list of home referrals between semesters. So it was very involved. There was individual therapy, group therapy. I mean, it was pretty intense, but the effects are evident.
So, what's the difference between stress and distress?
Stress and distress. I think a certain amount of stress is healthy, and then distress is when it's unhealthy and it's causing you to not be able to function in the way that you're supposed to live your life in a balanced way. That's how I would describe it.
So, with this digital skill, they can provide a training for the student to handle that type of stress. So most of the time we talk about stress, we don't talk much about distress, right? In school. Which one was serious? Is distress more serious?
Yes.
All right, that's good. Thank you. All right, so let's just move on to number 4. Describes the emptiness of others and stress are very similar with 4. Yeah, please.
The one I couldn't really find like a PowerPoint or anything on it, but I found a couple of studies on it, and they mainly looked at what causes the stress in college students, and especially new college students. And that was like they gain new financial responsibilities. They have to move out of their parents' house. They no longer have anyone like driving them to class or making sure they wake up. Pretty much just pushed out into the world all at once. So that causes a lot of stress. And then the study had 387 undergraduates, and mindfulness meditation was taught and practiced in only 20 minutes and still had the greatest reduction in general anxiety when compared to the other group that did progressive muscle relaxation. I don't really know what that is, but it sounds nice. It said even beginners in mindfulness meditation can experience a reduction in stress, and that the meditation methods don't need to be time-consuming. The more you practice it, the more effective it is. These students aren't used to organizing their own schedules, doing their own laundry, making their own meals, or even attending to their own physical health. It defined stress as a threat to well-being and the perception that one is unable to cope with that threat. And that's mainly what I took away from it, is that stress is just perception. If you can stop perceiving your situation to be stressful, you're just not going to be stressed. It's going to be easier.
Most of this is the cognitive problems, right? So, especially for the freshman, like you said.
Oh yeah.
So it's versus, but up to now, most of you get used to college life, except when taking the exam. I say project and so forth, you need to make that kind of preparation. So, and I know some students, when they first got to college, they stay away from home. And somehow they could not organize the times. So many of them, I know of, things like that, may survive for the first year. This happened to you somehow, but actually if you prepare in high school, much better, right? But if the student they don't have that kind of independent attitude, they have to take care of themselves independently. It's not easy. At home, they have everything. The parents prepare for them. When they go to college, they stay in the dorm. They need to take care of themselves. Or studying, we have to manage the times. Because in college, professor or instructor don't need to tell you, okay, wake up. You have to be on time and so forth. You are mature enough to handle that. So in the dorm, you have some students have some problems to wake up late and so forth.
Yeah, or they don't have the motivation to go to class.
So would you have them to would you motivate them? That's just their problems.
No, I try sometimes a little more harsh than usual. I should be, I guess. I'm just telling me, why not go to class? It's in the middle of the day. We have nothing else to be doing. Like,
And it's right.
it's right there. Like, you need to just go. It's going to help you. Like, have you realized how much you miss when you're not in class? Well, yeah, like, my test wasn't that great. Exactly. That's the reason you go. Like, but I don't have very much. Like, they're not missing for like a serious reason. I don't have much pity for them, and I just tell them to go. Like, it's their choice, and we have to do it themselves.
This is a major problem for the university, or any university. It's that, like, don't quote me, but I think it's like 40% dropout from freshman class.
40%?
It's huge.
Wow.
And the we constantly are striving to find some way of supporting students in their freshman year, and it's basically I don't think many of them are very successful.
Yeah. Especially they stay away from home and they have to adjust to new life, make new friends and so forth. It's really hard for them.
I had a very different experience going to college. When I was in high school, all I wanted was independence, and I hated that I had to live at home and that I couldn't just live the life that I wanted. And I was a pretty bad high school student because I was living at home. And my parents, they never did my laundry, they never made me lunch. I drove to school, I woke myself up. My mom didn't wake up until after me. My dad was out of the house before I woke up. And I had older siblings who were doing their own thing. And I was responsible for everything. And I couldn't wait to get out because I had already been responsible for everything except me. But so it felt like I was older and it felt like I was already independent, except I still had to listen to my parents in terms of like what I could and couldn't do, and I hated that because they were really irrational. And so when I got out of high school, I became a very great college student because I was able to be free of the stress of living at my parents' house. And so I got to do everything that I wanted to do in the way I wanted to do it, and I became very successful, I think. It was very different.
I had a similar experience.
Oh, really?
Except I didn't mind living at home so much. I just didn't like my high school or the people I went to high school with, and I couldn't get along with a lot of people or teachers or anyone there. And then as soon as I was out of high school and I was in college, my grades went up a lot. I mean, we made B's in high school, and I was in all our honors classes and stuff in high school, but now I do so much better in school. I like it so much more. I just didn't like high school at all. I didn't like the setup. I didn't like people telling me when I could and couldn't go to the bathroom. I didn't like any of that. And all my friends would say they missed high school, and I hated all 4 years of it. I hated all of school after like 7th grade. So
really?
college is so much better now. I would stay in college way longer than
College.
I think I would have been more successful at a different high school now that they have like alternative schools and now that education is changing and they're being more experimental. But it's not like I was like this very, very mature high school student that, would have, I don't know, but it definitely took time.
I have some students, a freshman, like sophomore now, they say that they have more stress at home than at school because they're still staying with their parents. And when they go back, when they go back from school, they have to do the same stuff when they still in high school. And especially now, Asian communities, they put a lot of restriction on the ladies.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, I've already said this, but for the first time in a very long time, I'm living with my parents again. And now that I've had that space, living at home is much easier actually, because that space allowed me to work on that relationship I had with my family without the stress of being around them all the time and like getting to have my own life. I was able to work on that, and so moving back in was much easier because I had that time to grow.
So most of the times, most of you will still stay with your parents? How many of you still stay with your parents? You enjoy, or sometimes you have some kind of stressful too?
I mean, I don't know, I don't really get along with them very well. So I try to just kind of, I'll just sit in my room, do homework, and, I really don't see them a whole lot. A lot of time not being here at work though, so. But.
It's understandable. You get along with them?
No. My grandma's been sick for the past few months, so I drive from Salisbury to Corydon like all throughout the week.
Oh, really?
So that's stressful. And then my grandma and my parents fight. So then I go from like the bickering in one place to the bickering in the other place. I just want to move out, but I can't afford it.
So how could you manage calmness? Okay.
Like sometimes, like I know that I can handle it better, but I'm stubborn with that.
That's great. So basically, 22 of you is to stay at home, and most of you out by yourself. So anyway, okay, let's go on to number 5. Do you have the model?
Yeah. I looked at a few of the articles, and then I didn't find one that was specific, like this is the ideal model, but I looked at several different articles that were working on, that had mindfulness in higher education, and what I took out of it was kind of my own idea of what a model might look like, and I think that it's a little bit challenging in secondary education because everyone as a student is in charge of their own life. So it's not like you're with the same teacher every day, right? It's not like you have one person that's with you all day that can say, okay, now it's time to meditate. You're kind of, we're all on our own and have to figure out how to do stuff. And I'm trying to think of it as like a freshman student coming into the university, what would they do? And I think that it would be, an ideal model would be at every level, there's some sort of encouragement to to encourage mindfulness and meditation to where they get reminders. Like the university is on board with mindfulness and encourage the instructors to incorporate mindfulness into their classes. And one of the articles I read was just different examples of like a psychology teacher who did so and the way they did it, an art teacher, math teachers, economists. You can teach mindfulness in all the subjects you teach, and how those subjects relate to being present and being self-aware and being responsible. Another way is to have the university support mindfulness, like a scheduled mindfulness class. Like he offers mindfulness classes here on campus. So if that was something that was available to the students and they were made aware of it, right, some type of campaigning, right? So if he, in freshman year, as part of your general eds, right, you get, and you should, maybe that would be promoted to help you with stress, be like, make sure you try to attend one of these mindfulness sessions, because if you just take, 5 minutes a day to organize your thoughts, you're going to feel better and be able to manage. And if they were taught that as they came in, it might be easier. And then the students themselves have to take responsibility for their own mental health, just like they do their own education. And I think that's the hardest part of being an adult, is learning, wow, all this stuff's my responsibility now, and I have no idea what to do with it. I'm sure that's what everyone thinks. I mean, even at my age, I still think that, like, I have no idea how I'm getting through the day. Okay. So, just try to figure it out. Like, I make lists, and then meditating is actually helping. So I think that might help.
I just was thinking about how when you're a freshman, you have to take that, like, College 101 class or something like that, and how when I took mine, we spent a lot of time talking about time management and how to reduce stress and all of that. And so why don't we just like gut the way that they teach us to do that, because it doesn't really work, and instead implement mindfulness, because it teaches you all the same things except you actually have to practice something, so you actually learn how to do it. That would just be a great idea.
That is a good idea.
Yeah. And I was telling Gary or Dr. Hingston about yin yoga, because I went to a yin yoga class this week, and maybe it's just the instructor I have, but she implements mindfulness into the class, and she's also very aware of like what's going on physiologically while you're doing yin yoga, and it's very different from other types of yoga. I don't know if you've taken a yin yoga class.
No, but it sounds
but it's amazing, and maybe it's just the place that I was in when I took the class on Sunday, but it's I've been in a tough place these past several weeks because of just a lot of changes going on in my personal life, and I've been struggling to deal with them, just like learning how to be single and dealing with struggles with family and just a lot of things like that. And I came out of that class with just like a whole new perspective. Like I was like, the sun looks different, the plants look different. I woke up today and I was just like so excited about the day, and the way that I've been talking to new friends and old friends, the way that I've been talking to everybody, I just feel differently towards everything. I just like been like love is just like just sprouting from me, and I just feel like amazing. And I was just like,
I want to meet her. I said I want to meet her. She sounds great.
Her name's Heidi, and she's fantastic. And it's yoga on Baxter, and it's $30 for unlimited yoga for the first month, by the way. Anyway.
Yeah, this is not the article, but
but you also get out of it what you put into it.
Very true. I've been trying to advance yoga classes.
But she
I
is
didn't
a
see
great
that one.
instructor.
I didn't see that one out there in your good files.
Every day.
Well, which folder is it in? It's not in higher
okay,
education.
I give you this folder. This is from UK and library. This one is still good. This is 160 pages, and this covers a lot of material. And they mentioned about how to be mindful teacher, how to be mindful student, and so forth. After they some kind of starting in mindful teaching, mindful learning, mindful school structure, mindful relationship, and so forth. For example, this is the mindful teachings, and then the book definition is an attention to and awareness of congruence, impurities, and efficiency in teaching practice so as to enable optimal action reflection. That's the end of definition. And go down here, they have handle job stress, teaching stress, enhance job is similar to teaching. Whereas potential awareness of job awareness, it is flexibilities in decision making and so forth. So this article. So you don't have this?
I couldn't find it in the good files. At least not for the education folder. It wasn't in there.
Probably somehow you add more.
Maybe it's in a different folder.
So it's be good. It's be good thesis. Okay, let's move on this one. The next one. Let me. I forgot to talk about this one.
No, she did.
Oh, I know.
Oh, you did.
This one, I put the I think the title is on this one. This book. This, you read this one?
No.
I post on campus probably last drafted it last.
Oh, well, I will
Not
read it.
in the good file, but
Okay.
this one.
Yeah, I was out of town all weekend, so I didn't really do much schoolwork, but I will read
This
that.
will be good articles.
Okay.
This from the book. Let me show you. I already forgot to bring it with me. It's be a good book. Let's talk about college counselor by using mindfulness-based approaches. Okay. So anyway, let's go back to number 6. Yes, please.
So, I don't know if I was just looking in the wrong place, but I kind of like my 2 files. Like, only 2 files came up, so I actually ended up looking at the one that Rebecca did. But that's more for like the severe, like emotional dysregulation. And she went over it pretty well. So I was just gonna say like, looking at like my experiences with like school, like I think regulating my emotions is probably one of the hardest things when it comes to getting stressed out. Because I know that like for me, if I get really stressed, my first instinct is to just push whatever's stressing me out away. Or if I don't know what it is, I just shut down and I just back away from everything. So I think that I know we talk about this a lot, but being aware of yourself and knowing like what stresses me out and why is it stressing me out and what can I do about it is the most important thing you can do. Actually, on Friday, my friend from Bloomington, she called me, and she's been really stressed out about school and her personal life, but she didn't know why. And so we talked for a little while, and I was like, well, you should try this mindfulness stuff. And then she shut down. She was like, oh, that sounds weird, I don't want to do it. Yeah. So I was like, okay. And so then I was like, well, and I started giving her these like steps she can take, which were the mindfulness steps, but I just didn't tell her that's what it was. And then she was like, that makes a lot of sense. And I was like, yeah. And she was, yeah, it's pretty cool. And she was like, okay, I can do that. And I was like, I just told you to do that. But so she's been doing that, and I've been checking up on it. So I think that like just being aware of what is going on in your life, because she had no idea. Like she said, I feel like I'm gonna have a breakdown, and I don't know why. And I'm like, well, I've been there. I think we all have at one point, or maybe more than one. So I think being aware of what you're doing, and all the things I was teaching her was like in BSR. That's it. And she was like, oh, that makes sense. I just told you to do that. You didn't really do it. But yeah. So.
This one, right? You can provide DBT.
Yeah.
It is one ACT, you can remember, right? ACT, DBT is skill. So you have the tools there. You don't need to mention about mindfulness meditation in the suggestion advice. And let's thank you. I have some select some articles. So sometimes I upload the file on the canvas, and sometimes I found more.
Do you always put them in good files folders, or do you put them other places too?
On that folder.
Okay.
But sometimes I add on, like a couple of days or day before the class, I found news articles or PowerPoints. Okay, here. Oh, have you taken GRE yet?
Yes.
It's stressful.
Yes.
Oh, can I tell a story?
It's stressful. Can I tell a story? Yes, you can tell a story. Yes, it's stressful and long. It's 4 hours.
Sorry.
I have a student. He just took MCAT test the week before last week. I didn't mention last time because it's not appropriate yet. So before he took the test, he went to my monastery on Friday evening to rest. And early Saturday morning, he drove back to do the test. And he says, when he walked into the test room, it's more peaceful than the time that he took SAT. So have you tried GRE yet? Not yet? Okay. Have you gone to? When? A couple of years?
No.
No.
A month.
A month?
Wow.
Really? Okay.
Give me all your notes.
So you better read this article. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So any test, especially it's important. There's one student. She's still young in California. She really wants to go to UC Irvine. So, but she got Fulbright scholarship when she was in the graduate levels. She had straight A, but you can say basically she failed MCAT to get into UC Irvine, and now she stay at home to study with her tutors to pass MCAT. It's pretty serious for her and for other people. And sometimes we study a lot, but when we walk into the room, we may forget everything. Right? So this is not easy. So when we calm our mind, this, of course, we with the preparation, with starting, we will have that kind of confidence. And they told that student, and the student that just took MCAT, just accept whatever you have. It's this you can control is with your hand. If it's out of your hand, they accept that. Nothing you can do. Whether you worry or not, whether you stress out, you frustrate or not, you disturb your mind. It's not easy. But when we have that kind of mental stability, it's easy for us to handle. Otherwise, in normal life, for other people, common people, it's not easy. Especially major one. For the test, the midterm, right? I say a midterm, so far you can make up, right? Or you can, let's say if you have a C for this test and you may have A, so this may compensate your previous test. But when you take this kind of test, it's not easy, and especially when students they want to apply for medical school. Somehow I go to him. He says, look back for the applicants to take MCAT second times. It's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. Okay, so another one too. So this is this is so that's and we can handle the stress running worry sometimes. This is really good. You see this? You have this one? You see this? No? Oh really? Okay, so probably next time I will do for you. Anyway, so let's see number 7. Yeah.
Okay, so perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really valid and relevant topic for college students. I mean, especially in particular those students who are in rigorous programs. I mean, like we're all HD students, master's students, so we have like a minimum GPA that we have to maintain. And I think that perfectionism has like sort of a negative connotation. I mean, when you hear it, you think, oh, they're like an egotistical maniac or something if they're a perfectionist. But the article I read was kind of interesting because it broke that word down a little bit into two key parts, which is the first, having unreasonably high standards or expectations. And then the second is excessive or unhealthy criticism when those standards aren't met. And it mentioned that college students kind of have like this all or nothing attitude towards academics. So if the entirety of their goal isn't met, then it's like nothing good was achieved. So like we don't allow like for the small victories. And a good example of this is one of my good friends. She's in a geology class that's like really difficult and it's not her thing. And she studied for like, I don't even know, days probably for this test. And she ended up getting a B on it. But she was so unhappy because she, I guess, really wanted that A. And I think that part of that is like the amount of energy and effort that you put into studying everything leading up to that test. You expect something out of all of that time, and when it doesn't happen, it's terrible. So of course, all of these kind of feelings, the authors link perfectionism to depression, anxiety, eating disorders, OCD, even suicidal ideation have all been correlated to perfectionism. And it's kind of like what JT said, students are experiencing like a perception of poor performance, not necessarily poor performance in reality. So from what I understand, the ACT model sort of seeks to like break down that psychological inflexibility, because it's like a really thinking like all or nothing is a very rigid like way of viewing it. So the therapists try and change the fixed point of view to more of a fleeting, like, you know, your feelings are more fleeting, they're not permanent, you don't have to like, it's not literal kind of stuff. So I picked out just a few of the important treatments. Like step 1 was to set up treatment goals. Step 2 is kind of interesting, creative hopelessness, which is sort of having the student write out all the things that they think they should have done better. It's called making the shoulds list, which is kind of fun. And then they compare that idea to like using the shovel to dig out of a hole, which is kind of funny because obviously you can't do that. You're just going to go further down. So they have the client imagine putting down the shovel. And I think the other big issue the ACT model addresses with this is control, which is probably the biggest part of perfectionism, is having the student understand that constant control over their internal experiences is ineffective. That's like what we've been talking about. But I mean, I can definitely identify with it. I'm not a perfectionist like in my whole life, but definitely academically, I mean, I have been guilty of a few of those things before.
We studied about this model, right?
Yeah, they mentioned that.
And, yeah, it's statistical classification on like when I talk with that student who has a friend school in California that failed NCAT test. Her goal is to get into UCLA medical school. She can see that's the goal, which is not much flexibility. They told me that this one medical school in somewhere in the United States that may not require the MCAT. Just Caribbean? Yeah. And there's some students, they sign up with Army, Navy, and so forth. They can have over for the situation. It's easy for them to handle. Of course, they have to sign contract, 4 or 5 years contract. Anyway, so so as long as we have that kind of flexibility, it's many ways for us to deal with problems, not laying our heads to the wall, adapting place. And I think the problems for these topics, the value, they don't really see the value. They just see the goal. We talk about that, right? I must, right? That's why they get stuck there. I should have straight A. I should have a job and so forth. I should have good CBA and so forth. That's why they get stuck. They don't recognize the value. And they don't continue to be pushing. They don't let it go. Let it happen. When I told the student who just took MCAT, accept what you have. You try your best to accept that. Nothing you can do. You try your best. And be present with be at the present moment. Remember that contest, remember that? Right? So recognize as your inner strength. So that's the model. And actually this one I took the articles from this one. It's pretty good. You read this? Oh, good. That's one, right? You just saw that one, right? It's pretty good. That they work out in detail, right? Yeah. You enjoy that articles? Yeah. That's from the book. I forgot to bring with me. Useless, the ACT teacher, precision, and college student. And how about your case? You sometimes you feel that you should have straight A.
Yes. Sometimes is not exactly the word I would use.
That expectation, right?
Yeah, I actually just got my first B in the program, and it was really hard. The economics class, I only got a B, and I tried really hard. It was very frustrating. I'm still trying to accept the B. I'm still considering retaking the class. That's how bad I don't like the B. And I'm trying to tell myself that I don't need to retake the class. I need to just accept the B. But then my other brain says, you had a 4.0, and now you don't. So I never had a 4.0 that long before, so I'm very disappointed. So I'm trying to accept it, but I'm having a very hard time. Maybe I should try the ACT.
Yes.
One of my education professors, Dr. Griggs, who is amazing, he talks about schools that have done away with grades, and the students that go to these schools have become some of the most successful people.
How?
What do you mean how? Oh, like what? Like their careers.
What do they do instead of grades?
What do they do instead of grades? Well, the teachers monitor their progress. Like when I was in homeschool, like we didn't really care about grades. It was like my mom would just look at our work and whether or not we were able to do it. We would talk about what I learned, and there was, I guess you could call that like oral exams. You just talk to them about what you've learned, and it's pretty evident that you can learn it. When it comes to math, I mean, you don't take a test, you don't get a grade for it, but unless you understand it, then, I mean, if you don't understand it, then you just keep learning until you understand it.
It's good.
But the grade does not matter at all.
Yeah, it's
you
good
don't get a grade.
if you have motivation to study. If you don't have motivation,
right. Well, the kids that go to these schools, I'm sure, have a very great situation. I mean, if they're going to these schools and their parents are very involved.
I remember that when I was in college, at Penn State University, when I went to my main campus, State College, in my introduction to psychology class, we have more than 600 students.
Oh my gosh.
And what happened? The professor took the average points of the test. That means let's say if you have 90, you may have B. You understand that the average out?
Yeah.
Or if you have 60, you may have A. So it depends upon the test. So you have to compete with all the students and have top time in that class. And I spend, you can say that, double energy in more than my engineering class. And so it's not easy. But when you study in the large campus, right, you have to deal with that kind of situation. And that's why some students they refer IUS, which perhaps not small, medium-sized, is that right?
That's one of the things I love about IUS is that it's small classes and build relationships with professors.
You get to know with the professors and just over there at UVL, I heard many students that they in the class maybe a couple hundred students, especially in the freshman and sophomore levels. So they could not get direct relationship or get the guidance directly from the professors. Sometimes they get lost too.
Plus, if you have smaller class sizes, you can do the seminar style teaching, which I feel is a lot more effective than lecture style. As I started at EKU, and I remember in my freshman classes, there would be a hall and be 200 or 300 of us, and the teacher would go through a PowerPoint. I mean, you could just sit there and sleep. No, he would never know or care.
And studies show that that's not the best way to learn, and that
you don't learn.
That's not the way people learn.
When people are just talking. I mean, you can go home and read the PowerPoint. There's then you're like, why am I even here? I should just stay in bed. They're not doing anything, you know.
Kids like, well, he puts the PowerPoints up, and all he says, like everything we do is on the PowerPoint. But you should still go. And but at the same time, it's hard because if I knew that the PowerPoint would be online and I didn't have to go to class to get all the information, I would have a hard time motivating myself too.
That's why.
Well, when I was in
That's why in learning process, there's two-way learning, right? The professor provide the guidelines, and you feedback, right? We learn together. That's remember I told you my first class in the University of Asia, and some students play games, whichever. I just changed the approach. I think it's healthy for both of us. Right? So anyway, it's really good articles, and I recommend if you want to be a student counselor, you need to read this book, which is applicable. Okay, so the last one here. Okay, the last one. Yes, please.
Okay. So dealing with test anxiety, first off, I think it's kind of important to recognize that anxiety isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, it kind of helps you perform better, because without it, like, you have no motivation. I mean, that being said, there's obviously too much, like, anxiety, but there is kind of a healthy level, I would say, of stress or anxiety. And I think it kind of goes into not being judgmental of it. Because if you're judgmental of test anxiety, then you kind of view it as bad, then it may persist more. I forget, it seemed like it was a quote somewhere we read, it was, what you resist will persist. So anyways, and then next I was kind of looking at the two, I guess, test anxieties. I think a lot of it can come even before you even take the test. I know that's for myself. You could be, filled with thoughts like, I'm going to fail the exam, or I'm going to fail the exam and fail the class. And I think during that, when you're studying for the test, it's important to recognize that you're having those thoughts, and this is kind of an ACT approach here, and recognize that they are just thoughts, and that's not the actual reality there. And then even when you're studying for it, try to not focus on like what's coming up. Just live kind of in the present. Try to just focus on what you're studying there. Because if you're kind of worried about failing the test, then you may not retain as much when you're studying. So, and then as far as like when you go to actually take the test, I think it's just kind of important to realize that, like, when you're in the room, that you have done all the studying that you're going to do. Like, you can't change like you could wish you studied more. A lot of times I kind of think, oh man, I wish I studied more, but worrying about that, thinking about that isn't going to do you any good at that point. So just kind of accept, what you did and do your best. And, after that, really just, like I said, it's all in the past, so there's nothing you can do. So that's, I guess, my best advice for dealing with test anxiety. It's a little bit hard because I really don't have anxiety when taking tests much. I think more of my stress is just, when I'm preparing for it more than when I get in the room. I'm more able to accept that, I did what I'm going to do and this is going to work. So.
Yeah, so you say this like two poles. One pole says, when you walk into the room, you may think, oh, I may fail this test. Another pole says, oh, I should have an A. These two poles, positive and negative, but still, expectation. It's blocked our wisdom, is that right? It block our views. This is great nervous, great anxiety. And sometimes, you study, especially multiple choice tests. Sometimes when you walk into the room, even you study hard, but the teacher or the professor give different questions that you learn about. Maybe first, I studied this materials for many days, but now you give different questions, right? This creates more anxiety, right? So we have to be prepared for everything. This happened a lot of times, right? I remember in college, especially in engineer career at school, they try to find a smart student and they give some kind of questions that you couldn't find books. This feel tough. And sometimes, right, in the subjective study, right, the professor finds some ways to test your intelligence. Yeah. It's most sometimes, right? It's especially in big college, big university. So anyway, again, because everyone love to have good grade, so that's why when they go into the room test, that's why they have a kind of anxiety. But if we have calm mind and we have that kind of confidence, we can deal with them much better than others. Yeah, so that's why I suggested that gentleman, the one who just took MCAT, he studied a lot. He studied months, and then he delayed taking the test for many times. So this is the first time he took MCAT, and he told, he went to monastery to stay overnight to calm his mind. So when you walk into the room, whether taking a test, have an interview, or have important presentation and so forth, rest yourself at least a couple hours.
I was in a coffee shop the other day, and there was a woman who was talking to her friend, and she said, I just took the GRE the other day, and I was like, and her friend was like, oh, how did you do? She's like, I passed. And I was like, congratulations. And she was like, thank you. And I was like, so I just take the GRE relatively soon. How much did you study, if you don't mind me asking? And she's like, not at all. I didn't study at all. And I was like, what? And she's like, well, like I got a good enough score that I was able to get into the program that I wanted to get into at U of L, and that's the score I needed. So it obviously depends on what score you need for the school. And I was just like, oh, well, that's awesome, and I gotta go, but great. And I was just thinking, like, if I don't study for something, then it's only because I know that, like, I've been so mindful in my classes that I have got that thing down, like that I don't need to look over it because, like, I'm just naturally, like, I know the material. And I was like, but for a GRE, like, how do you just know all of that material off the top of your head? Like, you just, I don't know, it was just really impressive, and I was like,
you have to study.
I totally take the GRE.
Okay, so
Just a little bit. That's better.
Yeah, don't forget, you've been lying.
She could have
I
studied
don't believe that.
a
No.
day or 2 weeks. You don't know.
Why would you?
Don't make yourself feel bad.
Oh, I'm not making myself feel bad. I'm just impressed. That's
That
amazing.
is impressive though.
Vocabulary in our school, therefore open economic has had a major impact, and hence it is now on our curriculum in that school, so in Altrincham Grammar School for Girls, which is one of the schools in our trust, for all of our Year 9 students, and has just, I'm really excited to say, become part of our induction for all new staff in the school.
Overall, we think mindfulness has really contributed to us becoming much calmer and more patient in our everyday lives. The practices have become like second nature to us now. We just do them without thinking. You know, if we get frustrated, I will just find myself doing a .B or a 7-11 to calm down. And it really does help. It's just been so useful for me over the past year and a half.
So we think mindfulness should definitely be in schools because in the case of our school, which is quite high achieving, lots of girls put pressure on themselves to do well and maintain a reputation, so that they can get quite stressed and tense. So we think mindfulness is really useful just for pausing, being, and just having some personal time away from the worries and tensions that come with school life.
We're really moving. The head teacher of one of the schools, and now another one well on the way, has a committed mindfulness practice, which of course is very helpful for me, and we are working our way towards being a mindful community right across our trust.
Also for me, because the introductory video had Kung Fu Panda, I was automatically in, because I love that movie.
I wouldn't hesitate to advise anybody to go to the course to go. I know it's aimed at secondary school start me, but anyone can benefit from it. I found it particularly helpful with like exam nerves and not overreacting to situations. So, as Chris and John were talking about before, I can, if I experience emotions like anger or sadness, I can now step back from that and realise that I'm not actually an angry or sad person just because of these. And you can just watch them and realise that they're fleeting emotions that will come and go and not react based purely upon them.
Unfortunately, I like to show this clip. This is the interview with this professor and the one who wrote this book. The two articles for this book.
Make stupid mistakes. So we're going to be talking today about the importance of mindfulness and being aware, and really using a college opportunity as a chance to grow and develop fully as a human being. We have a great guest, Dr. Jacqueline Pistorello. Dr. Pistorello has done our show before. She and Dr. Victoria Follett had written a book on trauma, and Jackie came and talked with us about her book at that time. Now she's written another book, Mindfulness and Acceptance for counseling college students. And this is a really good book, and I highly recommend it. Dr. Pistorello is going to spend some time talking with us about this. Dr. Pistorello is editor of this book, Mindfulness and Acceptance for Counseling College Students, Theory and Practical Applications for Intervention, Prevention, and Outreach. It's published by New Harbinger, and it illustrates how acceptance and commitment therapy and other mindfulness-based and acceptance-based approaches are utilized in helping college students. Dr. Pistorello is a research and clinical faculty member at the Counseling Services of the University of Nevada, Reno, where she has worked with college students for over 15 years. She has been awarded multiple grants from the National Institutes of Mental Health, to research the prevention and treatment of mental health problems among college students. Dr. Pistorello, it's so great to have you back here on New Skills for Living.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. So, of course, the first thing we'd like to ask you is, can you tell us a little bit about what brought you into counseling college students 15 years ago?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Before I came to UNR, I actually was not working with college students. I was working with a lot of women who were in their 40s or 50s. And I would hear over and over again, they're saying, I wish somebody had taught me some of these skills of mindfulness and so forth earlier in life, because things had kind of snowballed and then they ended up on disability and hard to dig themselves out of those holes. So I thought, well, I want to work with college students. That's a population that I can start intervening with earlier before things get problematic.
Can you kind of tell us how that developed, Jackie?
I had graduated from UNR, and then I was back east at Brown University, and an opening came on.
So have you existed to good video clips and watches, and you want to show shop like that, this like video tests.
Mike Yeomans, founder and director of College Prep Express, the fastest route to admission. I'm very happy to announce a new class we're offering at College Prep Express called Mindfulness-Based Test Anxiety Reduction. That's a mouthful, I know. Let's face it, everybody gets nervous before a test, and the bigger the test, the more nervous we get. But not everybody knows how to channel that nervousness into productive energy, and that's one of the things that this class is all about. Taking our energy and figuring out a way to focus it and basically get out of our own way so that we don't draw a blank and that we can do our best work. Of course, we're talking about standardized tests like the SATs and ACTs, but this would also apply to school tests, your algebra test, an English test, a history test. Anytime when students tend to get nervous and anxious and stressed out and can't concentrate. Students often complain, I blanked out. I studied so hard for the test, I really know my stuff, but when the test came, I couldn't show what I know. If you're the type of student who suffers from any manner of test anxiety, from the mild increased heart rate, sweaty palm type nervousness, all the way through to the complete meltdown in a test where you completely go blank and can't remember anything, this is a class you don't want to miss. What exactly is mindfulness? Good question, glad you asked. Mindfulness essentially is paying careful attention in the present moment to your body's sensations and especially your breathing in a non-judgmental and compassionate way. So in a 4-session class, we talk about how to bring mindfulness to a test-taking experience. And there are a number of techniques which are very well studied, well researched, and well practiced in mindfulness-based stress reduction that we're going to apply to test anxiety reduction. We're going to go over a great set of techniques that only takes 10 or 15 seconds to implement.
Thank you. Okay, so the next one here, I skipped number 3 because I don't think it's important. Okay, so workplace. Who's working now? Okay, so most of you.
Who's what?
You working? Oh, so all of you. Okay, so you have a job too. It's stressful? Again? Okay. All right, so let's see. Number 1, please. Let's see. Number 1. Yes. 2.
I'll do 2.
Okay. 3.
There's no 3. There's no 3.
I'm sorry, please skip 3. Yeah, 4. Okay. 5. Yeah. 6. 7. 8. Bob, you? Okay, good. So you guys ready? You guys have topic for your final yet?
Yes. Huh?
You have topic for your final paper? Alright, so okay. Alright, thank you. See you guys. The same report.
December 1st?
Yeah.
Okay. Do it.
I sent.
Okay. Yeah.
Should I write for that day?
So I won't see a grade on that week.
I will find a way to focus.
I can just attach a paper.
Yeah.
Okay. What? Right. Facilitated the classes, David. You still get an assignment?
Oh, sure.
That was.
Let's go. Okay.
Okay.
Like questions that I usually like.
Okay.
Because I read all the files, so I felt like I educated
okay,
myself, but I didn't write a paper per se.
No, that's you did a great job.
Okay, December 2nd.
Yes. December the 1st.
December.
So you can have the schedule?
Yeah, I have it. December 1st.
Yes.
Oh.
Never mind.